Greetings, my friends and food explorers. I hope you're doing well and ready to start a new wild journey in the heart of an Azerbaijani village, surrounded by these bumpy roads, vast landscapes, and nature that breathes life into me. Here today we are really going wild, with a real man's dish. Excited? Then get ready. Before diving into the details, make sure you've subscribed to Wilderness Cooking and give us a thumbs up. And don't forget to hit the bell icon to stay in the loop. While I'm near the field with mushrooms, I'll pick some. They'll become part of a delicious, nutrient-rich side dish with buckwheat for our main course of beef ribs cooked in the oven. Look at this view. With these small clusters of clouds, the air is so fresh, and these little mist-like clouds hover over the hills near the mountains, creating a beautiful scene. It's mesmerizing and breathtaking. No matter how often I come, I find myself lost in awe. Buckwheat as a side isn't so popular in Western cuisine, where it's more of a healthy dietary addition. But for many people in post-Soviet countries, it's a fantastic ingredient, often a primary dish mixed with vegetables like carrots, onions and mushrooms. I love how these seasonings are arranged neatly on the table. If you want your cooking counter to look the same, just look at the right side of your screen. Yes, go and get what you need to make your workspace shine. You can even get the knives I use for different cooking purposes. Just scan the QR code and see how your cooking experience transforms. I'll be cutting along this thick bone that connects the ribs. This spot isn't quite big enough, and I don't want to risk damaging the counter. Plus, I think any knife wouldn't get through this bone. We could try using a hammer, but that might break the ribs. So, I've decided to use a saw to cut along the ribs smoothly. Now, let's wash these ribs to remove any blood and small bone debris. If you haven't found us on Instagram yet, here's a reminder. Just type Wilderness Cooking and you'll be on a whole new level of connection. Now, let's separate each rib along the line where they're connected. If you look into different ways of cooking beef ribs, you'll find that each cuisine has its own unique approach, perfected over generations. For example, in French cuisine, beef ribs are often braised and then slow cooked in wine or broth for a tender and more flavourful result. In Korean cuisine, short ribs are marinated in soy sauce, garlic, sugar, and sesame oil before being grilled. We Azerbaijani people like to keep it simple, yet incredibly flavourful, often opting for slow roasting in the oven at a low heat for several hours. We end up having a tender meat with a slight crust from the rubs, an ideal balance of textures. Now, I'll whip up a marinade for the ribs. Some garlic, rosemary, black peppercorns and salt. Just a good crush of these ingredients and we're ready. Let's elevate the marinade with some paprika and turmeric, mixing it with olive oil. The blend of spices, rich and aromatic, will infuse the ribs with a warm, earthy flavour that complements the meat beautifully. Alright, let's brush this marinade over the ribs, coating them generously to lock in the flavours.
Videonun altındaki linke geçit eləyərək bizim super game'lərimizi alabilirsiniz. Super.
Now I'll toss the buckwheat into a large bowl and rinse it thoroughly under water from the well. Rinsing is essential to remove any impurities, ensuring the buckwheat cooks to a fluffy, light texture. Next, let's chop the onions and the rest of the vegetables. We'll give them a quick roast before adding them to the buckwheat, enhancing its flavour with that slight caramelized sweetness. I'll be adding some peppers too. Their mild heat and crisp texture will bring extra depth and a hint of warmth to the dish. Now I'm chopping the tomatoes, which will add a juicy acidity to balance the rich flavors. They'll break down while cooking, releasing their sweet, tangy juices into the mix. Everything's going into the pan now, onions, butter, and the rest of the vegetables. The aroma is incredible, and it's starting to look just as good as it smells. Time for the mushrooms. These will add an earthy, savoury note, blending perfectly with the other vegetables for a hearty, rustic side dish. While the veggies and mushrooms are sizzling away, let me share a quick tip. If you're as passionate about quality tools in the kitchen as I am, you're in luck. I've got a collection of artisan kitchen utensils and perfectly designed knives in my online shop. You know, these aren't just any tools. They're crafted with attention to detail to bring that professional touch to your cooking. So, go ahead and scan the QR code to check them out. Now, let's sprinkle in a bit of turmeric to bring out the colour and earthy flavours in the sautéed veggies. Time to add the buckwheat. It'll need some time to cook, absorbing all these flavours beautifully as it simmers. Just look at this setup. I've got this circular frame with metal rods where I can hang each rib along the edges. It's such a unique way to cook these beef ribs, suspended in the heat to get them roasted perfectly all around. Alright, here we go. The seasoned buckwheat goes into this beautiful wooden bowl, and I'm placing it right in the oven. Now I'm setting up the flame with the hanging ribs above it, so all those beefy juices will drip down into the buckwheat, infusing it with even more flavour. This rustic setup feels like something out of an old tradition, but it's going to make the whole dish unforgettable. Look at these beauties. Just perfect. The golden brown colour, the aroma, everything is exactly how I imagined it. I'll set the bowl of fragrant buckwheat beside them. They look incredible together, like a feast straight from an ancient story. Ah, there we go. Each tender, juicy slice just drops right onto the warm buckwheat. It's the perfect balance. The savoury, succulent meat with that nutty, rich buckwheat. Just looking at it makes me feel completely satisfied already. Oh, wow. This is pure bliss. The tenderness of the beef, with that hint of smokiness, blends perfectly with the earthy flavours of the turmeric-infused buckwheat. It's hearty, warming and satisfying. The kind of meal that stays with you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had as much fun as I did cooking this dish, and I hope it inspires you to try something new in the kitchen. From the flavours of Azerbaijani cuisine to all the spices and textures, it's a pleasure to share these traditions with you. Until next time, take care, cook with heart, and don't forget to subscribe for more.
Kanalımıza dəstək olmaq istəyirsinizsə, onlayn mağazamızdan xüsusi bıçaq və ya taxta qablarımızı əldə edə bilərsiniz. Mağazanın linki videonun altındakı təsvirdə var. Super!